Coming to a YouTube channel near you.
Oops. Cheers, everybody. Friday night. Hopefully everybody's getting a start to a good weekend. You know, it's been a pretty crazy week. And as you can tell by the title, we're going to have a little fun tonight. So we'll give people time to trickle in, and then we'll get this train rolling. Hopefully everybody is doing well. Oops, we already got Linda's in the house. Jolie, Alaya. It's always good to see both of you in here. What do we got going? Next week, Wednesday, I get to actually be center stage on Grizzly's Wednesday night show at 9 o'clock. So you can tune in for that. We're going to reminisce a little bit about some evidence that's been found and hasn't been talked about in a while. So we thought it would be good to bring it back up and just see how it goes. Have a few laughs along the way with it. As you can see, due to popular demand, the scruff is coming back because I had no positive feedback. Kathy, how you doing? It's good to see you. Glad you can make it. Oops, clicking wrong buttons here. So hopefully everybody is, again, doing well. I do want to send out prayers to everybody in the Bigfoot family that needs them right now. Sounds like Justin is doing much better. His progress is going well. So continue prayers for Justin Decker, please, and his family. And I don't want to butcher your name, but Lena, please pray for her as well and her family. So a lot of people in a time of need right now. The world's a very strange and crazy place. Even people who seem to be, I can't say, losing their stuff mentally. I mean, here in the local town, we had a mass poking of people with 11 people. That's actually made national news because it happened in a Walmart. So prayers for them as well. There were a lot more serious injuries than what I realized. And Kathy A, prayers to Justin and everyone. Thank you, Kathy. I know they appreciate it. And everybody in the Bigfoot Outlaw family appreciate it as well, because we are family here. So, but tonight, I'm sure people are kind of curious about the thumbnail and how that's going to come together. As everybody, I'm sure, has heard by now, we'll get the hard part out of the way, because sitting online, you read about when certain people pass, and and we'll get to Bigfoot. Trust me, Bigfoot and Hulk Hogan, you'll see the correlations here shortly. I just want to get the obvious elephant in the room out of the way, because apparently Hulk Hogan's leaving of this earth has ruffled a lot of feathers and even caused a YouTuber to quit. A very famous one, Joy Swole. Joy Swole, you're a frickin' wingnut for quitting. You should have never done what you did, and you should get back online. So quit being a baby. Probably going to get called out by Joy Swole now, but that's okay. He's being a baby anyway. But yeah, so what Joy Swole does, and this will kind of sum up why I'm actually doing this as well, was Joey Swole put up a picture after Hulk Hogan passed that was a gift of him being in a Hulk Hogan costume that Hulk Hogan had given him personally. And he put the picture up, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan. And people lost their minds due to the fact that, I'm sure everybody knows, there was an incident Back in 2007, Hulk Hogan said some things that were released to the public in a private phone conversation that, weren't so nice. And he took a big hit for it, later apologized for it, even apologized for it again. And it happened in 2007. The tapes were leaked in 2015. Did a half-hearted apology. People still mad. And when Joey Swole put that up, the people who were still mad about that gave him a lot of grief. And instead of doing what he should have done and just ignored the hate, because Hulk Hogan did inspire him as a youth, he should have just turned around and ignored them. But instead, he put an apology video up, which everybody familiar with the internet knows that's about the worst thing you can do, because now you've succumbed to the haters. And now the people who were following you and praising you are going to hate on you, and the haters are going to hate on you. So you can't win. And unfortunately, he can't take it on the chin, so he's quitting YouTube. If he can't take the heat, I guess he leaves it, considering how his YouTube content was anyway. It's too bad. He did a lot of good, just like Hulk Hogan did. And we're even, if I can get this play right, gonna have a little fun here, because this will probably be one of the last times you'll ever get to see this. I'm not gonna play it all, so don't worry. We're not gonna sit here for 5 minutes watching this, but it'll kind of kick the show off in a way that it should be. So let's let this play and have a little fun. And yes, I'm going to comment over it, because this was one of my childhood heroes. I don't know anybody who follows wrestling or even how. And the fact that he helped so many kids. Remember that. Oh, American. Oh, there we go. So, anyway, I had to clown around a little bit. He's gone, but he did a lot of good things. Now, what people need to realize is they need to separate the man from the character. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about Hulk Hogan and Bigfoot. We're leaving Terry Bollea out of it, who was the man behind Hulk Hogan. So, I'm wondering, everybody's probably wondering, how am I going to compare Hulk Hogan and Bigfoot? Because believe it or not, let's see, get the right photo up. Patty, as we know, was, let's see here. Patty, we know, was about 7 feet tall. And let's see. So there's Patty. Patty was a beast. 7 feet tall. 750 pounds. So there was a lot to Patty. Hulk Hogan was 6'10", 6'7". Pardon me. Don't fact check me. Hulk Hogan, 6'10", and 300 plus pounds. Man, where's all my pictures? We're looking, folks. Sorry for the audio listening. Downloads. It is so crazy sometimes. You have to go in so many different places to find pictures that you know you downloaded. Not only that, but look at that guy. Look at the chest and arms on that guy. 6'10". And we'll have to use the figure for some demonstrations here. But, you know, that guy didn't start out. He started in obscurity, just like Bigfoot started in obscurity. He, you know, Robert Patterson and them gave Patty the film. Nobody believed it, really, even though it was obviously legit. It stood the test of time. It has gained popularity over the years, kind of the same way Hulk Hogan gained popularity over the years, because he started out as Terry Boulder in the AWA. And when he first went to what would have been WWF, he sat down in the chair with Vince McMahon Sr., and they turned around, and Vince McMahon Sr. had no use for Hulk Hogan. He asked Tony Atlas, what do you want to do with the big dummy for his debut match? And what'd they say? Tony Atlas was like, I don't know, power press him. He says, okay, power press the dummy, and walked out. Hogan leaves. And then makes his name on the smaller brands. And sorry, I'm trying to find all these pictures I downloaded. They're gone. We're going to have to wing it. Anyway, kind of like Patty. Nobody gave Patty any real credence. You know, a few here and there. Obviously, as time went on, and more people tried to test that film, the film kept giving more. And just like Hulk Hogan, who it wasn't until Rocky III, when he stars as Thunder Lips, that he starts gaining more popularity. And then he goes back to WWF. After that, his demands were Vince McMahon Jr. Obviously, he's kind of a hot topic too now. Turned around and so what do you want? And he says, I want the belt the first night and X amount of money, and turned around and did it during the hostage crisis. During the hostage crisis with Iran, the Iranian Sheik was the heavyweight champion. Hogan pins him. Americana starts. Hulkamania starts. Patty. When does Bigfoot really get popular, if you think about it? Popularity starts in the 70s, same era as Hogan. And then once it started to become okay, if you really think about it, when did it become okay and actually kind of cool to talk about Patty? You know, we have to take our hats off to Finding Bigfoot, Matt Moneymaker, Monster Quest along the way. Monster Quest had some good episodes. Don't let me crap on them, because they did have good stuff. And so you've got Patty gaining popularity, Hulk Hogan gaining popularity. You have Patty looking like this. Patty looks like this. Hulk Hogan's not much of a different stature, but much less hairier. You know, that's why we have the do-rag. And if you think about it, though, just think about how much, if you think Hulk Hogan is a big guy, 6'7", 303 pounds, and you got Patty, who is only 7 foot, 7'1", somewhere in there, they think, somewhere between, I think it was 6'9" and 7'1", but she was 750. And you see how big this is. Now think about how dense Patty is. Not mentally, but how muscular she is compared to that. I mean, that gives you an idea right there when you've got, man, I wish these pictures would have came out. Anyway, you know, we played the TikTok. You saw Hulk Hogan. You know, Patty obviously has a huge foot. That one we can pull up. I can show you. I mean, Patty was, and you know, the cool thing is Patty might still be running around because we're coming up on what, the 50, happened in 67, so 58th anniversary of Patty. I mean, let's see. Yeah, look at the girth on that girl. You know, you think Hulk Hogan had a big chest and shoulders. Check out Patty's shoulders and size of the noggin on her. You know, people think Hulk Hogan had a big head and his ego's even more inflated, but that's okay. And to me, and to many other people, you know, I never met Hulk Hogan. So, but I've seen a Bigfoot close, you know, and if you really think about it, if you just go by those standards alone of whether you've seen it or not. Yes, we've seen millions of pictures of Hulk Hogan. Yes, we've seen pictures of Bigfoot, but I've seen Bigfoot in person. Obviously, Hulk Hogan's real, but to me, Patty seems even more real. Not Patty, but Bigfoot seems even more real because I've seen a couple. And the one I saw, Joey, how size comparison more so with Andre the Giant? Yeah, Andre was 7'4", so he would have actually been a little taller than Patty. And he was, well, depending on which time, and we'll get into the fun stuff with Hulk Hogan's stuff later, things he said. Reminds me because of, we'll get into some exaggerations with Patty that are quite funny as well. But Andre the Giant was 7'4" and a little over 500 pounds. So Patty was just a little bit shorter, but weighed over 200 pounds more. And now think about how big and clumsy Andre was too, toward the end of his career. Right, and remember, Andre played Bigfoot in Bionic Man, if you're old enough to remember that show, but you can definitely pull it up on YouTube or maybe Tubi for $6 Million Man, where Andre plays Bigfoot. And so it is kind of a nice comparison. But then to think of just how much bigger, and the one I saw in 87 was even taller than that. So and the shoulders is like incredible. Bigfoot or Hulk Hogan, All American. Remember that? You know, look, I don't know if we can pull shirts in there, but Bigfoot, All American. So merchandising sales too. Think of all the merchandise each one of those people have sold. I wonder, how we doing there, my friend? Anyway, uh, Yeah, and so to sit here and thanks, Joey. It was a gift to me from a friend who went out to Pittsburgh. So I'm not sure where he got it, but we even got the, you know, Bigfoot All Americana here. Whoops. Sleeve rotation. You know, Bigfoot's just as all American as Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer. So now the interesting part are you had Bigfoot has. Yeah, I'm with you. And if you go back to the beginning of the show, Bulbous, you'll see that I touch on that because, like I said, tonight we're going to those calls were in private that were released, and we have to remember Hulk Hogan was a character. You know, he was a larger than life character. Terry Bollea was the man behind the character. You have to learn to separate the two, and to a degree, because the wrestling world is so much different. Bigfoot's Bigfoot 100%. Everybody doesn't expect anything different. Wrestling is actors, athletes first and foremost. Let's go that way. They're athletes, but they're also actors. They are people playing a role, and they do it nowadays not so much because people know that it's, I like to say, predetermined, but with social media and everything, the characters and real people kind of blend together now. So where in Hogan's era, it was kayfabe. If you were out in public, you were playing that character, no matter where. There was a story I just watched where he was talking to him and Lex Luger were in the ring staring at each other, and it was a live TV show, but they had to do one of those awkward stare downs because they were going to a commercial break. And so when they're doing their commercial break, Luger and Hogan have to sit there and stand there and mean mug each other for over 2 minutes. And about halfway through, Luger said he didn't, he was kind of brand new to it. He didn't know what to do. So he actually smirked. He kind of gave Hulk Hogan a smile because he knew he wasn't being taped. And Hogan gave him the dirtiest look and turned around and told him, "Don't you ever break character outside of that locker room again." He said, "This is how I feed my family. Don't ever break character again. And if you don't not take that smirk off your face, I'm going to knock it off right here in front of everybody." So they had to be that character 24/7. We need to learn to separate the two. Comments were made. I'm going to go on Rumble about that. So if you want to hear me blow up about Hulk Hogan, the character should be celebrated. Hulk Hogan did a lot of good for people. And I mentioned last week that Joey, it's crazy how much wrestling has changed the years 20 to 30 years ago. Yeah, it's totally different now. It is all, it used to be wrestling, and now it's sports entertainment, first and foremost on the entertainment. And if it weren't for Hogan doing that, there wouldn't be wrestling where it's at. If you did not have the combination of Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, it would have never taken off the way it did. But anyway, kind of the same thing with Bigfoot. If Finding Bigfoot hadn't come around, would it be okay yet? Would all these other shows have gotten their chance to shine? Expedition Bigfoot seems to be the better of them now. Um, yeah, they've gotten pop doing some less than questionable things, but again, it's entertainment. Someone tell me If Bill Cosby could get dragged, so could Hulk. It's ridiculous. Yeah, exact bold sack. When I could feel I could beat up a WWE star, it's no good. Exactly. There was a time when I went to see uh, Bret Hart wrestle, and I wound up staying in the hotel room with a bunch of the wrestlers. And this is another character that's going to stir up a lot of controversy because this guy did something. It's kind of hard to separate the two. I was at a table having dinner and looked across, and there was Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Norman Smiley having dinner. And I waited until they were done having dinner and asked um, Chris Benoit if I could get a photo with him. And he was very gracious and let me do it. And as he was signing an autograph for me, first thing out of my mouth was, "Man, you guys are some amazing athletes." And he just kept cocked his head and looked at me, and oh man, I must have sounded like a complete pop tart or something, because with the look he gave me, he goes, nobody has ever said that to me. They tell me what a great actor I am or what a phony I am. He says they don't talk about being athletes. So he thanked me and said, you must be a real wrestling fan. And then later that night, the Bret Hart fan club and I were sitting at the table, and all of a sudden you hear from across the bar, "Hey, you, wrestling fan." How old were you? This would have been 2000. Yep, 2000, when Bret Hart was in WCW. So I would have been 30. And I wasn't quite as big as I am now. I was only maybe 215. And when he said, "Hey, real wrestling fan," everybody's turning around, and I look, and there's Chris Benoit going like this to me. So I got to go over, and this was before his WWE days. He's still in WCW. And I got to sit and have drinks with uh, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Norman Smiley, Arn Anderson showed up, and Ric Flair showed up. And Rick was the only one who stayed in character. Though now is basically, and everybody else was hoo-hawing it up, but he wasn't at the time. Stories and real Bigfoot stories. When I said bigger than my legs, just crazy. Which, that is what it is. And as I say that, it makes me realize last week I mentioned, or no, I'm sorry, the week before, because I was sick last week. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned the fact that my childhood Bigfooting had come full circle, which is true. The property that my interest began, I now get to be very close to that property. And, it also goes to something like this happens and goes to show that your, childhoods do come to an end when the heroes and statues that you had as a kid, you reach the age where, they start passing away. You think these people are going to be here forever because they've been there through your whole life. And, the immortal Hulk Hogan will live on, but the man Terry Bollea who played him is gone. So now that childhood's kind of little piece of your childhood's gone. Kind of chokes you up thinking about it. But anyway, so yeah, and there are stories of some, if you dig it up, there's some pretty funny stuff as Hulk Hogan got on in years. We had a few people that were a little naughty with Bigfoot stuff, that put stuff out that wasn't real, And I'm going to say this again just so people understand. I do think Todd Standing has probably had a bunch of stuff happen. But in his eagerness to try to get Bigfoot on the books, he's been busted hoaxing, which is a shame because once you get busted, everybody's, it's no different than when you say something on a recorded telephone call, everybody's going to remember it. So you kind of get judged by that. But Todd Standing and his, let's see, I know I got them saved. And his, some of his images of Bigfoot, like this. Hey, as soon as it opens, guess we'll get rid of this. Anyway, so Todd has been busted, and Hulk Hogan's been busted, telling some whoppers too. Every time he tells a story about slamming Andre the Giant, Andre somehow gains weight. It was originally a 500-pound giant, body slamming him. We got up to, at one point, 650-pound giant as he presses him over his head and slams him brother. And at one point, he got all the way over 700 pounds. And finally, somebody did an interview and goes, what's the deal? How does Andre gain weight when he's been gone for X amount of years? And he's just like, oh man, he's just a heavy dude. So, you got a lot of people telling whoppers with Bigfoot. You got a lot of people, Hulk Hogan telling a lot of whoppers. The fact that I think one of the funniest ones, I think, is Elvis was a Hulk Hogan fan, and went to his matches. So anyway, the Elvis one, and Hulk Hogan tells about what a big Elvis fan he was, but unfortunately, Elvis keeled over off the potty 6 days after Hulk Hogan's first match, so he wasn't a Hulkamaniac for very long. Best viewers on Steamboat.com. Not quite sure. Anyway, but Bigfoot stuff. So, I will be actually speaking at a camp out in October 2nd and 3rd, down in Salt Fork, someplace I've always wanted to go. Grizzly's going to be there. Old Bear's going to be there. So what was that? Turned down the Metallica gig. Yep. Hulk Hogan was supposedly going to be the Metallica drummer. Yeah. He did play bass. That much is true. But other than that, I don't think Metallica had much of an interest. Oh, my favorite one is the fact that one day he wrestled 400 days in a year. And even I had to think about that for a minute, because his reasoning was he flew to Japan. He would wrestle in Madison Square Garden, jump on a plane, fly to Japan and wrestle, and then come back. So he gained 14 hours flying to Japan. So he considered it 400 days when he added the hours up. His math is a little fallible, though, because he forgets the fact that you get those 14 hours back when you come back across the timeline. So, yeah, any wrestling fans don't understand that. It was a little Steiner math there for that one. But we also have, was it, as far as more Bigfoot activity, they've been blessed to be able to go back out there and find some things, and maybe at some point we'll get to where we can take a look at stuff, but that's totally dependent on the people who own that property. I am going to be hitting the normal spot and seeing what's been happening out there since I've only been out, I think, once this year. So I'm sure we're going to hopefully see some changes out there. Depends what happens with them. But and also we'll be talking again on Wednesday night and talking about a certain artificial sweetener container that's in my freezer. So be there for that. It sounds like Grizzly's got some surprises for it as well. And oh yeah, remember I was talking about Hulk Hogan's big boot? Remember Bigfoot also has big boots of their own. So see, everybody's got their finishing move, even Bigfoot. Imagine getting that in the chops. That would tear you up. Also have see, there's all kinds of pictures of Patty around as well. I mean, here we go. This is my personal favorite that I was there for when this picture was taken. We talk about the Hulkster having that big head, big shoulders, and big arms. And this one was about Hogan's 6'7". This one was over 8 feet. Talk about a size difference there. This one was taken back in April of 2024 in Manistee County. And I saw 3 for sure. The person who was with me said he saw 5 because there was 2 on the ground. And we all started snapping pictures, he and I. And this was the best, clearest one of the bunch where you can really tell something's looking at you. And, look at if you click on the picture at home and you zoom in, you can see some facial features. You can see that huge freaking arm. That arm's got to be as big as my chest. I mean, that thing was massive. And I was watching a Grizzly show Wednesday night, and Marianne was on for the Ozark Bigfoot conference. And, she agrees with me that I think what they do is they're stealthier than ninjas when they don't want you to know that they're, right behind you and following you around. But once you get to the point where you cross that line or they want you out of there, then they let you know audibly, because it is absurd how something that big can walk with no noise, but once they start putting the feet down, how loud those footsteps can be. And on the same line, though, you have to be careful that you don't get Bigfoot on the brain. And I've been guilty of this, where you walk through the woods and all of a sudden you think you hear, the leaves crack, crack, crack. And they're parallel. It's a parallel. We're being followed. And then turn around just in time to see the chipmunk jump out of the leaves, because it sounded like an 800-pound chipmunk following you out. But, if a rock gets chucked at you or you catch a glimpse of one and then you hear thud, 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 it's not a chipmunk at that point. So, as we start to close this up, this will be short. I just thought we'd have a little fun comparing Hulk Hogan to Bigfoot, because they are both larger than life characters. In my eyes, I know they're real. I don't believe. I know they were both real. They both had a huge impact as far as, mostly positive. Some people have Hulk Hogan was because of the whole phone call issue and a couple backstage stories. There was some dark stories floating around, just like there's some dark stories floating around about Bigfoot. The Bowen incident comes to mind right off the bat. But there's also a lot of positive things where you hear about Bigfoot, who a guy was having issues with bikers coming up at his private property. And at one point when they went to, I believe they grabbed a hold of the landowner, and the resident alpha male stepped out. And when the bikers saw that, they all got on their bikes and had no problem leaving and not coming back. The version of that you would compare it to as far as helping is the amount of kids Hulk Hogan helped for the Wish Foundation, Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think I'm saying that right. John Cena holds the record now, but Hulk Hogan was the one wrestler who really started there, and all the kids he's helped, made dreams come true. Bigfoot, hey, I saw one in 87, and my dream was to see another one, and in 2019 that happened. So Bigfoot's made dreams come true. A lot of people are making a lot of money on both of them. I'd be really curious how the licensing works for Sasquatch. Hulk Hogan trademarked his name. I don't know if anybody knows that. He actually bought the Hulkster name from Marvel Comics. So that was his trademark. And, he could get royalties off anything involving that and his Real American Beer. But Bigfoot, that's... I wonder how they do that, because technically they don't exist. But at the same time, we've got guys like this. We got Jiffy there, and then at the same time, we have, there we go, the immortal Hulkster there. So they've both been a part of my childhood, and Bigfoot now is a lot of my adulthood. Aside from personal, I am getting research, kind of the main focus as far as what to do. Blessed and is blessed able to find some of these, because a lot of people go out and really squat footprints and logs hitting my truck. A&W root beer being stolen. So big thing now. Hold on to those childhood dreams, because some of those can change your life for the better. Some of them can be long-term, like Bigfoot is for me. Started before and it's still continuing. I was a fan when he was in AWA as Terry Boulder, and up until last week. So, I guess what you gonna do when Hulkamania runs out on you? But that will live forever. And you know what? Let's play just a little bit more of that one more time, just to send this out on a little happier note. Because some of that big leg drop has got to be one of the funnier finishing moves. You had a guy with the largest arms in the world, and he's dropping a leg on you instead of putting a sleeper hold on you. So a little bit of this, and we'll close it out. And with that, what you gonna do when coast to coast and around the world, a Grizzlies Bigfoot outlaw family runs wild on you all?